Hello everybody, Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. I'm going to do a video tonight I think everybody's going to find it interesting. And what I did was list everything that's known about the underground homes. There's a lot of details from a number of people. You often hear me tell people or say that there's multiple people documented as saying that tunnels and underground homes are here with support and evidence on old Google Maps. And, you know, and that's the short way of saying it. Instead of naming every one of them individually, showing the print screens. Well, this video, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you every single one of them one by one. And sometimes what I'll see, and I even seen it recently on YouTube, where I get somebody and they're playing dumb, you know. Oh, you have no hard evidence. Buddy said there's underground homes. No, Buddy said there's a whole bunch of people that said there's underground homes here. A whole bunch of them documented. I got them recorded, you know. Not Buddy said. There's a lot of people that said there's supporting evidence on Google Maps, you know. And, you know, and just playing just stupid. That's what it is. And I think some of our law enforcement is also, they're playing dumb. Well, you hadn't showed us proof of underground homes, so why will we investigate murders, right? You know, it's like, what is wrong? And obviously they know, is that, you know, and they're just playing dumb because they're not that dumb. And so this started with a comment I just got actually on YouTube from this guy Dave Switlick, and he said, Buddy, about 6 years ago I was brought in on an engineering consultant for an underground tunnel construction project in Midland. They gave me a wealth of knowledge about the purpose, location, and construction of these tunnels. The project was very specific in the fact that they needed to bore these tunnels silently so they could build them through residential zones, that, you know, through neighborhoods. After 2 years of briefing, planning, and design, I was pulled off the project and told it was canceled and immediately blacklisted for 3 years from any construction consulting in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It's a giant cover-up. The paychecks to my firm were being routed through Panamanian banks to obscure the paper trail. And, you know, that it sounded real. You know, what he was saying sounded real, but the timing of it, you know, that was the other thing here, and you'll see in mine that the timing of that, I don't know how it's connected to what is here. It probably is connected, but what was going on here has been here a lot longer than 6 years ago. Okay, and so here was my reply, and I said, I'm not sure how or if the project you worked on was connected to here due to the timing. Here's what is known or has been said about these underground homes and tunnels. It's a large amount of information with many details. And then I put bullet points, and they're down here in the comments. So what I'm going to do, I'll copy and paste that, you know, for the description in the YouTube video, and we're going to go one by one on these comments so you can see them, okay? And here's the first one. Ricky Ronaldo told me that him and his brother used to go in the tunnels under this home when they lived here as kids. I have a print screen showing that, you know, law enforcement could subpoena, you know, Facebook, go, yeah, he did. They could talk to Ricky if they were actually trying to solve crimes and murders, okay? But anyway, Ricky, here he is, says, I used to live in that house years ago, you know, and I said, that's interesting. And then he tells me, when I was a kid, there's tunnels under the house. Me and my brother would always go down there under my house. Okay, so there's one person documented. Okay, and like I said, we're just going to go one by one on each one of these bullet points. Okay, one woman was recorded as saying there was 4 3-bedroom $1 million underground homes which cost over $1 million each. She said they were having pedophile parties down there, and that's in this video. I'll put the link on it. $1 million underground homes. There was also some other information out there because she said there was connection to a guy that lived in a town near Hobbs, New Mexico that started with an A. That would be Artesia, and the richest man in New Mexico lives in Artesia. He owned an oil company, and he sold it to Marbob. He sold it to Concho here in Midland. I've suspected that's who you know, was being referred to on that phone call, but said it was connected to these underground homes. This wealthy oil man, and I believe to be an Artesia. That was also on that phone call right there. Y'all can listen to it if you want. And then even other information about it has to do with your den. And if you look at where the tunnel looks like it comes from the Home Depot store, it's right at my den. I'm gonna show you a picture here in a minute, but that's in that recorded phone call, and which is a YouTube video. The next one here, a CAD program, and that's a computer-assisted drafter, told me that she worked on this underground safe house project, which was completed in 1987 with a budget on permit of $7.35 million. Interestingly, we found out all the permits were accidentally deleted around 2014, 2 years after I'm shot. Okay. She said they were put in for the Bushes, and George H.W. Bush was vice president at the time under Reagan, and the Bushes are from Midland. Okay. She worked for PBK, and that's a valid company, and she her LinkedIn showed she worked for BBK, and they also built a school here. All this is verifiable information. And this home was built in 1982 because she said it was finished in 87. Okay, the first owner of my home was an engineer for Pioneer Oil Company back then. Okay, and then that might be key because one guy says, "Oh, them company homes over there," as in they were ran by oil companies, and I think maybe for the parties, for the oil show parties. But anyways, I have recorded her. I have a video called "Bush Safe Houses in Midland, Texas," and just a ton of information. I asked Layla, I said, "You have to sign any, paperwork on that, non-disclosure agreement?" "Oh, I had to sign more stuff for that job, any job I ever worked, And so, that all makes sense, and I've wondered if they hadn't used that as an excuse. "Oh, this is top secret. That's how come when we murdered little girls that were forcing to prostitute, tried to murder Buddy, we can't investigate that. This is top secret," or some kind of crap like that, So they're using that as an excuse because 35 years ago, 40 years ago, it was put in for the Bushes or whatever. So now they use that excuse to force little girls to prostitute and murder them, and that's why they want to investigate. I've wondered if that ain't one their excuse for not investigating and allowing these crimes and murders to continue. Okay. Rhonda Denman Rogers was documented saying that an underground facility was a half block away. Okay, and it's not Buddy said that, right? Here I've got a print screen where I was talking to Rhonda. I was telling her on Facebook Messenger, my home is sitting on top of some underground facility, which is very important, or at least near this facility. And she writes back and she says, "Yes, it is. I know, a half block away." And I made a point before. She didn't say it's 3/4 of a block. She didn't say it's 2.5 blocks. She knew exactly where it was at, and I think that's probably around the corner on a home on Westmont Court. I'm going to show you here in a minute. During the election for Midland Sheriff candidate Joe Lozano was recorded as saying that the underground homes was the hideout for the late Sheriff Gary Painter. I was secretly recording him when he said that and made that into a video right here that went viral. Okay, and so these right here are solid witnesses. It's like, you say there's underground homes. No, lots of people said one person was running for sheriff. Midland County at the time. There's so many people here, it's absurd to say there's no evidence or proof of underground homes. Why would we investigate multiple murders or whatever, Another woman told me to go look up my address on Google Maps, and to my surprise, I see a large bunker in my backyard on the map screen that wasn't seen on the satellite screen or from above ground. Obviously, this is one of the 4 underground homes that I was told about. It's the safe houses put in for the Bushes. This was recently deleted from Google Maps right after I notified the City of Midland about it being there. But I have screenshots and videos of it, and I suspect somebody with the City of Midland called Google and had it removed from Google Maps because they are literally trying to cover up capital murders. And and that person should be investigated and/or arrested. That's all there is to it. Okay, and so here's what I'm showing. Basically, if you went to Google Maps on the map view right here, the block screen, you could see this bunker in the backyard right here. This is my house. This is where I was ambushed and shot by somebody under my house in the backyard. But you go over the satellite view and it's not there. And I'm showing it side by side. There it is, and there it is. And that's what I found on there, and that's what I told the City of Midland. I said, there's multiple people documented saying underground homes are here, and there's supporting evidence on Google Maps, and all of a sudden it gets deleted. And that only happened just a couple of months ago. In October 2010, my friend Angie Mungie Herrley told me about a young girl that was murdered at a party going on during the Permian Basin Internation oil show. Okay, at the time, Angie was leaving my home and at those parties in 5 minutes. I believe they were held in the underground homes that multiple people have said were here. Okay. In 2013, the remains of a 14 to 21-year-old girl was found outside of Midland. I suspected that was the girl based on the timing. The previous owner of this home died the week before the 2008 oil show started, with conflicting reports of where he died at. I believe he was murdered here and taken to Fort Worth. Tisha Brumley told me the oil show parties were held in the underground homes, and I have a print screen showing that. So I have several pieces of information there. One, and Angie, I tried to get her to go report that murder of that girl she told me about, and she was afraid and said that high-level police were also at the party, okay? And, you know, somebody told me the other day, yeah, that, well, Angie changed her story. Well, I bet she did. She was threatened, you know? That's what's happening with this police corruption, you know? We're going to arrest you if you don't change your story, you know? She was afraid to report the murder. Police were at the party that the murder happened at. I believe what was happening, the people at the party were parking at the Midland Home Depot, going underground there, coming back via tunnel. You can see on Google Earth maps. I'll show you in a minute. And then in my backyard was one of the 4 underground homes, and that's where they're having the oil show parties back in October 2010. They were forcing the women to prostitute. They were drugging them. It was forced prostitution, sex slavery, sex trafficking, etc. And that one little girl didn't want to prostitute, and they murdered her. Okay, and like I said, then a year and a half later, the remains of a young girl are found. Okay, and then I went on and I was saying, you know, that was the 2010 oil show, and then I believe it was, you know, my backyard's one of them homes. Well, the last homeowner of this home, Mike Lawhon, he died the week before the 2008 oil show started. Can you see what, you know, the relationship there? How coincidental that is that they're going to start the oil show parties in the backyard a week later, and he dies, you know, and then there's conflict in the reports of where he died at. And like I said, Tisha, she told me, she says, no, I'm familiar with the parties. They are held in them underground homes. Okay, and so this is the picture I showed you a minute ago here of the Google Maps screen and my yard right here, and this is believed to be one of the 4 underground homes. This is the Crime Stoppers for the young girl that was found outside of Midland. That was a black female, 14 to 21 years old. And you know, and really what I've felt like, they're not even trying to solve that murder. And I think the reason is because they know it's the girl that was murdered at the oil show party that police were at. Okay, and once again, the police are not stupid. You know, I know we want to, give them credit, but here we have a corruption problem. That's and it was like my latest video on Dirty Detective Rosie Rodriguez. You know, and I mean, it's believed that she was taking money. This was a for-profit murder. My murder was planned in advance. They cut my phone lines before they shot me, and then the ex's former boyfriend, said he overheard her planning my murder with her police friends, one her good friend, Rosie Rodriguez. And Rosie was caught tampering with evidence, lying on police reports, you know, and so that's what it's looking like. And the Mike Lawhon, the previous owner, dies the week before the 2008 oil show started. Here, I want to show you. The Odessa American posts a death notice that says he died in Fort Worth. Okay, 4 days later, they posted a second death notice, changed the location of death to say he died at his residence. Okay, that would be here in Midland, and that confirmed what a neighbor had told me. Marilyn DeLucia had told me twice Mike died in my house. She lived across the street. She told me 2 different times that Mike died in this house, and one time she says, "I should know, right?" Yeah, you should know. You live across the street. But his death certificate says he died in Fort Worth at his mom's house. Okay, and so I believe he was murdered here and taken there, and the reason is because they were going to start the oil show parties the next week. Maybe he was flown there, you know. And then finally, Tisha, you know, tells me, Tisha Ann Wilkinson Brumley says, I've had friends been involved in those oil show parties. They're exactly what you say. They're underground homes, okay? My sister used to do the oil show parties, and I got close to them before she shut that down. So her sister would know, you know, have information if we could find law enforcement that was legitimate, okay? The homes at 3900 Westmont Court and 3800 Fairgreen Court or Circle both have the same weird mortar problem that my home had, which is believed to have been caused by digging under the home. That caused the foundation to settle, and the home dropped, and when it did, it broke the mortar joints. They also have nearby water wells, just like my home. Before these reasons, this may be 2 of the other 4 underground homes that I was told about. I was told there were 4 of them, okay? And so it's possible that the young girl girl Angie said was murdered at the oil show parties was at one of them other homes. Maybe it didn't happen in the home in my backyard. But here I want to show you, here's the Midland Home Depot. And like I said, Angie's leaving my home and she's at the party in 5 minutes. Well, I believe she was parking here in the Home Depot parking lot, going underground here, and then coming back via this tunnel that you could see that's cut. See the color change on the road where they cut the road going directly to my house, actually to my den. That was in that video. Do your den. It goes right to my den, and that's what it looks like. And in the backyard is one of the 4 underground homes, But also just around the corner, remember that Rhonda Denman Rogers says a half block away, not 3/4 block, not 5 blocks, half block. Well, there's an empty lot. There's a water well, and that home had the same mortar problem that my home had. And then this one over here also has a water well, same mortar problem, and it's next to this Fairmont Park Church of Christ. And a law enforcement officer advised me to go snoop around that church one time. I made a video about that, and I seen large groups of police parked at that church that I wondered if wasn't planning parties for the underground parties, And I'm going to show you here. And here, just talk about bunkers. This came out of the protective order here in 2013, and of course they were in there. The ADA, the assistant district attorney, which quit after this case. They come after me basically, because I was finding all this information on the internet, and I think it was just a bogus case. The ex-wife lived 100 miles away. I'd seen her talk to her in a year and a half, and then all of a sudden I get this protective order because I sent 2 non-threatening emails in 18 months. But during this case, this is the transcript, they kept mentioning the bunker. I hadn't even thought about a bunker, and over they kept saying bunker, bunker. There was a lot of information I didn't know. I got a feeling that this ADA, Stacy Jewett, she already knew about these $1 million underground homes where they're having them oil show parties for an international oil show. And if that's the case, that's judicial misconduct to go after me. That means she knows that I'm the victim of a capital attempted murder. I'm an innocent crime victim, and they come after me because they knew these bunkers were here. Multiple people have told me there was a game room, illegal casino brothel here where the high rollers go to bet money and other stuff. This is believed to be in the 4 underground homes. That's more than one person, Even recently, a friend of mine, an investigator, don't you think it'd be cool to, go to underground, play poker, but here's another one right here. It's like, this is a friend that kept her anonymous. That's so bizarre. Yeah, I so believe you. I had a lot of people here recently in the past week talking about the underground tunnels here and discussing the underground. Word here in Midland is how there's a game room here that all the high officials go to and bet money and win money and whatever else is they do down there. You know what that is, prostitution, right? That's forcing little girls to prostitute. And it says, but I hear more and more people talking about it. And then what I suspect was happening is they had police down there for security, or they were participating or whatever, and then this girl gets murdered and then police covered it up, because then otherwise they'd have to expose the underground homes, and they're still trying to cover it up to this day. And I think they covered up the murder of Mike Lawson, and then they tried to cover up the premeditated murder attempt on my life. We know they did. Judy Chris Zahora or something said this was front page news when they were put in, but it was for oil storage. Except the people working down there said they were homes. Okay, so here's another person, right? I was told it was front page news in the newspapers when it's built, but they said it was salt vaults to store surplus oil. But if you talk to the teenagers that help work on it, they said it was houses. You might find it in the papers back then. Just another proof, and so when I get somebody here comes like, Buddy said, or you have no proof. I'm like, that's just ridiculous. There's so much proof, it's to the point of absurdity. Of course they're here. There's evidence on Google Maps. Of course they're here, and not only are they here, they're connected to multiple murders, On the night that I was ambushed and shot by somebody under my home, absolute proof shows I wasn't shot with my gun, so we know that. I just reported a suspected tunnel to the DEA who didn't look, so maybe the DEA set me up, 5 police officers were in or at my home that were not seen arriving on the security cameras that saw 2 other officers just minutes earlier. That would be Davis, Dickie, Chatwell, Angel, and Hale, that were not seen on the cameras that saw Woodward and Naylor at 11:01, okay? With all of my doors and windows secured with extra locks due to the crimes I'd been reporting to the police. This proved that the police were under my home that night. The ex-wife had hinted a large party was going on that night, and obviously in the backyard home, in the underground home in the backyard. Okay, and I'm going to show you here. This comes from the police report that was illegally withheld for 7 years. I didn't get the police report, and they were withholding it because it had incriminating evidence on it. And what it did was timestamp this police officer, Tony Dickey, inside my home at 11:05. Okay, at 11:01, here's the timestamp. These 2 officers are seen in front of my home. So 4 minutes earlier, these 2 officers, who we now know is Woodward and Dickie, okay, or Woodward and Naylor's dead, right? And Woodward's now a convicted felon, okay. They're the first 2 that showed up without being dispatched. 4 minutes later, he's inside my home, and he wasn't seen arriving. All of my other doors are secured with extra locks. My windows are screwed together. You can't even get a window. My garage door is screwed to the wall. It's because of the crimes I was reporting. And so that's how we know that Dickie was under my home. He came in from the now removed trap door that the ex-wife had already told me about, and from where I'd been shot. Absolute proof shows I wasn't shot with my gun. And there's more to that story, because it's now known there was a burglar trapped in my bathroom. I had unknowingly trapped a burglar, and it was even Officer Chandler that made a comment on a forum. Mr. Webb, due to paranoia, caused himself to suffer a gunshot wound. So she was trying to blame me, and that's what it seems like, that these police have tried to blame me for being shot inside my home because of the trap burglar. And I'm suspecting police were under my home. What's really going on is the police were working with the burglars and the thieves that are breaking into my home, and not only my home, all the other homes where people are reporting people in the attic. They're working with this organized crime gang. That's what happened. And so when you report the crime to them, these felony burglaries, the theft of services, is whatever, then they call you crazy and they dismiss you and they ruin your life and all that, and you're a crime victim, okay? And like I said, you try to stop them yourself, then you might end up murdered, because that's what happened to me, That's what it looked like they tried to do to me. Here we go. There's hard evidence right there. Obviously, Dickie Davis, Chatwell, Angel, and Hale know about the tunnels and underground homes here. They didn't materialize inside my home, okay? That's like that. This is not Star Trek. On July 2nd, 2019, I showed Homeland Security where I believed a tunnel was located that was going from the Home Depot store to my house. And that's what I was talking about. That's where I think the people of the Old Show Party were using that tunnel. I found this on old Google Earth map pictures. You can go to Google Earth, download it, and you can look up the Home Depot store and look behind it. But look at the 2011 pictures. Go to the historical pictures. You'll see it. 2 weeks later, the ground was dug up and concrete was poured there, which I got on video. It's suspected that multi-billion-dollar oil companies were leaning on elected officials to help them cover up the Oil Show Party murders, because it wouldn't be good, for their stock prices, okay? So I was here with Homeland behind the Home Depot store on July 2nd. This is July 17th. I showed them where I believe this tunnel is located, okay? You can see the tunnel cut out of the back of Home Depot. That's where I think Angie used that tunnel. I think the murdered girl used this tunnel. Everybody going to the Oil Show Party used this tunnel coming to my den and my house. And here in the backyard is one of the underground homes, okay? So I showed them this. I was back here. 2 weeks later, they dug up the ground and poured concrete. And, keep in mind, Homeland's supposed to stop human trafficking. They're not supposed to, pour concrete and help human trafficking murderers that are forcing little girls to prostitute, And interesting, that was July 17th. Well, July 30th, U.S. Congressman Mike Conaway announces his retirement. Come to find out, his brother-in-law used to live across the street from my house. I got a feeling that's why Conaway retired, okay? And really, 3 months later, the U.S. Secretary of Homeland, McClellan, resigned, and 6 days after that, that, U.S. Secretary of Energy Rick Perry resigned, former governor of Texas. And what I'm suspecting is these oil companies, they were talking to Perry because he used to be governor of Texas, saying, Rick, you need to help us cover these murders up. This is not good for oil business, And Rick said, well, we'll get some concrete poured down there, whatever. And they get caught on camera, covering up a capital murder. And now they're looking at the death penalty. Uh-oh. Lance Eggleston told me, we have access to your residence at all times. Nobody will ever believe your story. You'll be silenced, not if, but when. Obviously, Lance knows about the underground access to my home, too. Okay. And, and once again, it's not my word against Lance's word. Here it is, right here. That's what he said. You will be silent, not if, but when. And I said, when are you going to murder me, Lance? I took a print screen and I emailed it to the then chief of police, Bryce Robinson, who I feel real sure is dirty. He was dirty. He's gone now. And then my next final comment here, I said, and there's a huge number of people that have asked or ordered me to sell my home. I believe that most of these people know about the underground homes, crimes, and murders, which is why they want me out of my own home. And, and that's the thing is a lot of people would know about these oil show parties, right? And, and the ex-wife told me after I was shot, you don't know how many lives you ruined with your idiocy. And that told me a lot of people were here, and whatever they were doing in the underground home in the backyard was going to ruin their life, And so what I did, this is just a few of the move comments I get. I still get them all the time. I answered one today, why don't you move? Don't you think it'd be better if you moved, And some of them are nice and some of them are just hateful or they're threatening, You have two choices, move or meet God early. That's one. Here's this Betty Thomas here. Sell and move the F out, you moron, because we're in the underground homes having sex with kids. She didn't say that, but there's some reason, ain't there? There's some reason that she wants me to move out of my home that I worked all my life to buy. You know what I mean? I didn't tell her to go move from her home. She wants me out of my home, okay? And one point I'm making here, these are a list of death threats I got. That's just some of them. But here, if we ever restore rule of law, the Hobbs Act says you can't conspire with others to terrorize a property owner into selling their property. And that's exactly what's going on. It's the textbook definition of a violation of the Hobbs Act. They're all working together. The police are playing stupid. Oh, underground homes, I can't figure that out, with all these people, people breaking in my home, threatening my life, I'd move from that home over and over and over again. And it's all the Hobbs Act. They're trying to terrorize me into selling my property. Clearly. And here it's amazing. This is from the Homeland Security agent on the day that I showed him where the human trafficking murder tunnel was at behind the Home Depot store 2 weeks before they poured concrete. Okay, his name was Cervantes, Paul Cervantes, DHS agent Paul Cervantes, right here. And we're in the parking lot at Home Depot. And we get over there, and then he gets over there, and what he did is, buddy, I don't know why you don't sell that house. Are you living under the threat of death? I'm like, what? You know what? I can't believe he just said that to me. Here I'm telling him, show DHS, where a human trafficking murder tunnel is, where they forced little girls to prostitute, killed the last guy, tried to kill me. It's a sex trafficking ring is what it is. And he's trying to get me to sell my home. That's how I took it, And it's real obvious. There it is. He said, I simply asked you why you wouldn't consider selling your home if you continue to feel threatened in there, That's a violation of the Hobbs Act, right? That's how I read it. I told him about the Hobbs Act. And here's what I compared it to. Say the bank had a bank robbery and the police show up and go, I don't know why you don't sell that bank if getting robbed. Do you see how absurd that is? That is how absurd this is. And that's what's been going on. Just from this huge level to try to terrorize me into some of my property so they can cover up murders in the underground homes and pretend that they're not there. Is anybody so stupid that you can't figure this out? When you can see it there see it on Google Maps and all them people documented. It's here. Don't play dumb. That don't work. We got the remains of a young girl out there, and that's the young girl I believe was murdered here, and it needs to be investigated. We need to expose the underground homes, and then we need to stop this. This is Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas.